Hey ladies and gentlemen, this is Commander Fitzhugh from your industrial group, and we're going to look at doing your planetary interaction. What you see before you is a gigantic plasma planet. What you'll notice is I am flying my ship, and the command centers for the planet that I'm going to do is in the inventory. So first and foremost, we are going to look at the planet. Select the planet, right click, view in planet mode. And there it is, one big planet. You can zoom in, zoom out with your mouse wheel just like normal. Up here you see build and scan. First thing you'll do is scan. For those of you wondering, for planetary interaction, we're going to be primarily doing POS fuels, and on the plasma planet it gives us the unique ability to do enriched uranium on a single planet. Enriched uranium is done with heavy metals, and well, let's take a look. Let's find out and make sure I know what I'm talking about. I think it's heavy metals and noble metals, but if you've been paying any attention, this has been put up several times. Nope, that's not the one. Hold on. This is not the one I normally use. If you've seen me in channel, you've seen me post the one I like, but this one is also pretty good because it lets you simply mouse over what you want to build, which in this case is a refined commodity, enriched uranium, and it tells you exactly what you need. So you need heavy metals and noble metals, there and then there, for making precious metals, and toxic metals. And those two combined will make enriched uranium. See how pretty that was? It's all flowing and cheating like. It actually gives you the numbers. The little 5 there says this is how much it's going to produce, and when you mouse over enriched uranium, it shows you how much of the lesser items you're going to need. So we're going to be building a heavy metal and noble metal base here. So step 1 is obviously scanning. Heavy metals first because it has the least. You select your item and it'll bring up the map. The map shows concentrations. This is the scale. Dark is bad, white is good. Everything in between is a gradation of the two. So we got some light pink here and over here. So it looks like the heavy spot. Ooh, there's a nice big heavy spot. You can check the planet. You click on show other people's thing to make sure you're not going to drop your command center right on top of somebody else's. But we found our big heavy spot of heavy metals, so let's see if we can find a noble metals nearby. Oh, look at that. We got noble metals flowing from our armpits. Look at those big white swaths. So, you know about where you want. This dark area right here represents where the heavy metals are. We'll switch over to that scan and take a look. And there it is. And the reverse is true. So, we know that on the left we have one, on the right we have the other. So, we're going to build our command center right between them. Just click on it, you have a little dot. You can zoom in so you can see it a little better. So there's a command center. Now, things to know about command centers. Unless you're using a command center for storage or for launching off the planet, the command center does not need to be attached to anything else. It just needs to be on the map. Basically, you can have your rig up to a full hemisphere away from your command center. I like to keep mine close. Once you've placed it, you submit, and it lets you start building everything else. Now remember, everything you build costs ISK, so be aware of that. Do not show up here with 100,000 ISK and think you're going to get this done, because you're not. So step 1, dropping the extractors. You have 2 items for enriched uranium. Each extractor can only extract 1 raw material, so you're going to need 2. When placing your extractors, make sure that this big circle you see includes the area you plan on actually mining. So we're going to cheat it down a little bit away from the command center and nail it right there. Now, the other thing to remember is that these buildings all need to be close together. When they get linked up, those links will burn power grid and CPU out of your command center. So you don't want to let that run out. So putting your buildings close together is important. So the next thing I always do is drop my storage facility. You'll notice I'm putting the storage facility on the side away from the raw material so that the extractor is between the raw material and the extractor. And that's because the other extractor is going to go right on the other side. Okay, so that is your basis. What you're pulling and where you're pulling it to. Next we go to our command center. Now that we've burnt up all of the power grid, most of the CPU, just placing those 3 buildings, it's time for upgrades. Now I am lazy, so I just upgrade mine fully. Now remember, this also costs ISK. I just spent 4 million ISK. And there we go. Now I've fully powered up the system. Now I can start putting as much as I want on the planet as I can physically put without running out of CPU and power. The basic setup for this kind of material, which in our case is going to be a lot of what we do: mechanical parts, enriched uranium, coolant, and consumer electronics, which is used for robotics, all run on a simple system. 2 extractors, basic factories to refine it, advanced factories for the final build. So, and we're going to look at our processors now. Taking raw materials to their first stage requires a basic industry facility. You need to run at least 2 per extractor to keep up. I try to run 3 when I can, but I suggest everybody build a step at a time. That way you're sure not to run out of CPU and power as you go. So there we go. My 4 basic factories, 2 for each extractor, all set and done. So now I submit that. If you do not submit, it does not really exist. You can always cancel out. It will give you your money back. You have not done anything irredeemable until you hit submit. Okay, playing with extractors for beginners. Basically, every extractor can only extract one thing. You'll select your extractor, you'll select the survey, and then you'll select what you're going to do. Now, I happen to know that what I want to do on this side is the heavy metals, so you select what you're going to do. Wait for it to bring the gradation map back. And there you go. See, I've got this extractor near what I want to mine. Now, my skills are high enough that I can run at least 3, sometimes 4 out of every extractor, but I always start with 3 to make sure that I don't run out of CPU. Just click the little blue dots. Your extractor head will appear. Now you can move them into place. You'll notice I put them in the hot spot over here, this light one. And these numbers moved. So 235, 244, 235. These are really good numbers. And what that represents is how quickly it'll pull stuff. As I moved it around, these bars moved. This shows the first 15 minutes of pull, the second 15, the third, the fourth. Because right now I'm on a 1 hour cycle. Your extraction area, how big it's pulling from, is controlled by your extraction area size meter. Now, the bigger the area you pull from, the less devastating your mining is going to be. Now, I go for a 2-day cycle. Some people like to go the full cycle, which is, I believe, 2 weeks. Yes, you can take it all the way up to 14 days. I don't recommend that just because it's kind of boring. So I do a 1 day, 23-hour, 30-minute cycle. Now, the longer your cycle time is, the longer the individual cycles are. So my drill heads will now pull every 30 minutes. And you see here, this is how much it's actually going to pull in that time, in those time periods. I've got a couple of good peaks, but it's a continual drop off towards the end. Once it gets to this point, these extractor will automatically turn off, and you'll have to restart them. And that's true no matter how you set it up. So now I've got my extractor figured out what it's going to pull, where it's going to pull from, and how long this cycle is going to go. And it's saying idle, idle, idle. So we are going to submit. Now that I've hit submit, this thing has started. It is extracting right now, and it has got nowhere to go. So once you get something going, you want to start building your links one at a time. And that's all there is to it. I've now linked, and we can zoom in here, I've now linked my extractor to my storage facility. Your storage facility is the center of all business. Everything gets mined, put in the storage. Everything gets refined, and then put it back into storage. Everything gets taken out of storage for the final build, and then proceeds to the launch pad. And you'll see that a little later. But right now, what I want to do is make sure that anything I pull while I'm putting together the rest of the planet is not lost. So you select your extractor head. You select routes. You see no incoming, no outgoing routes. That means that the stuff you're building isn't going anywhere. That's bad. So you go to products. See, I forgot to press submit. Now we look at it. No incoming, no outgoing. No products present. Why is it extracting nothing? Oh, I forgot to install the program because I suck. Okay, so now it is installed. It is ready to go. Look in here. Now we look at routes. Nothing incoming or outgoing. Now I have a product though. It is not routed. So I create the route. Pick the storage as the destination. Click the route. And there you go. If you look at your products, it tells you everything there is. This cycle, this 30-minute cycle, I'm going to get 19,000 units of heavy metals. And they're going to get taken to the storage. It also has a number attached to it. That represents what percentage of the load it can carry it is carrying. So right now my route is only carrying 31% of what it could. That becomes more important for planets where you are running 5 or 6 drill heads to the extractor, because you can overload your link. And the one truism of PI is if it's too big, then that just falls to the side. Let's get the other one done. Okay, one thing you'll notice, this is a normal extractor head. This is two overlapping ones. You'll notice there's a little bit of static, and up here under the numbers you see little reds. That's a loss caused by the two drill heads trying to mine the same stuff at the same time. So you want to avoid letting the drill heads touch. And you also want to spread your damage out as much as possible. So I've spread that out. You'll notice that these numbers are about the same as the three extractor heads that I put on over there. The real important number is this down here, your total. The total in this extractor and the total on the other extractor, you should try to balance those as much as possible. That might mean taking one extractor head off or on, but it doesn't really matter as long as it gets close to being balanced. Install the program. And zoom back in because we can do this a little easier. Create the link, submit, find your product, route, all set. So now you are extracting and sending to storage, but all you're doing is creating a bunch of pretty rocks that aren't doing you any good. So now let's get on to the basic factories. Basic factories are just that. They're basic factories. All they do is take a raw material and turn it into a slightly usable product. So we know what two products we're making, precious metals and toxic metals. So what we're going to do is install schematics, which is basically telling the processor what it's doing and what it needs to do it with. So this is it, precious metals. I need input from noble metals, which I'm going to get from storage, and it'll output precious metals. So I install that. Another one, precious metals, install that. This one is toxic metals. And toxic metals. So I've got two of each factory set up to run. Now I've got to link everything back to storage. And there we go, all linked back to storage. Submit. Now I gotta open these up and create my links. Once again, products, not routed. Now here's the trick. It's got to get input as well as put output. So I have to look at my routes on my storage. That one needs precious metals. Precious metals come from noble metals. So we take noble metals and we route them. We create route to the factory.